Hello YouTube. It's been a hot minute since I've done a YouTube video. In fact, I was watching my old videos and they're a little bit hilarious. So let's fast forward, it's 2019. Here's who I am today. And I just wanted to talk about tarot cards. I get a lot of the same questions over and over and over again. And so I just wanted to hit on the most frequently asked questions and tell you a little bit about my experience with them, my history with them, and how I got to what I'm doing with them today. Basically, I'll start with, there's 78 cards in each tarot deck. They're divided into major arcana and minor arcana. So the major arcana is from 0 to 21, and it tells the story of the Fool's journey. And so 0 starts with the Fool. He's wistfully, just naively walking right towards the cliff edge. He has a pack in his hand, he's ready to go, and he's quite confident in his adventures, even though he has no bloody clue what he's about to walk into. So we kind of go from like this childlike sense of, I don't know what the world holds. I don't know where I'm going. I wonder, and I'll find the joy along the way. Now he goes through all of this journey and meets different archetypes. Like here's the first one, the magician. So we go from the Fool to number 1, the magician. So he starts to realize everything is connected, and everything that is connected gives him his power. I'm not going to go through each one of the major arcana, but know that it ends on the world. This absolute kind of idea of, oh, this phase of the journey has been completed. And then we start back all over again to 0, the Fool. So the idea is it is a full life journey in the major arcana, but also we tend to go through that full journey multiple times in one lifetime. Those cards alone can get quite in depth. Now the rest of the cards are broken up into 4 suits, much like our regular playing cards. So just as an example, I randomly pulled 9 of Swords here. So Swords is our air suit, it has to do with our mentality, our beliefs, our habits. Then we have Cups, has to do with emotions, spirituality, relationships, our deep, juicy values and priorities. Then we have Wands, which is fire, our action, our passion, the things that keep us moving forward. Then we have Pentacles, which is earth. So earth has to do with anything physical and tangible, our daily life, our physical health, our financial wealth. It's that slow and steady wins the pace kind of vibe. So that's the rest of the cards. Now we have all the numbers plus the court cards, Page, King, Queen, I missed one, Knight. So you see how that can get in depth pretty quickly. And depending on the question, or if there is no question and we're just doing a check-in, we can get a lot of specifics on what exactly we need to look at. What are the questions? Now, this is why I call it life coaching with pretty pictures. That's Chinchilla Sharkwilla, by the way. She wants nothing to do with me until I'm recording. So we get to ask ourselves the right kind of questions. It's like life coaching, except we get to dive straight in quite quickly because we're being guided by, well, let's look at this part. Let's look at this question. What are the answers here? What are we avoiding here? What are we holding on to here? So we can get really specific with the question, or we can go general and just see what happens from there. So I really enjoy using these as part of my life coaching regimen, but they're not necessary either. We can do the same together, just talking, having a conversation, especially because after all these years, I've learned that because we're all going through so much of the same cycles in different ways, there are so many relatable topics, relatable questions that we can ask and figure out action steps along the way from there as well. So they're just a tool. A lot of people have superstitions about the tarot cards. I was raised hard Christian. I'm pretty sure my family thinks I'm going to hell for being a tarot reader, and that's okay. And, but yeah, they're just cards. The magic that people like to refer to, I believe, is within each of us. Not necessarily the object. Now, granted, they're beautiful, they're magical in their own sense in that way, and they're such a valuable tool. And do we have to use them? Do we need them? No, probably not. So how did I get started with tarot? Well, I was doing all different kinds of sessions with people at this point. I was really getting into energy work and using that to read people. So I love the chakras. I use the 7 chakras. And somebody handed me this tarot deck and was like, you might want to look at these. You might just consider. And so I picked them up and I started playing with them. It was a really sweet, safe deck, me coming from Christianity. It was angels, Doreen Virtue. There were dragons and fairies. It was just beautiful. And the description of each card was right on the card. So I started playing with them, and I started playing with oracle cards, which can be literally anything. There's no format. It's whatever the author, the artist wants to create. And I started to realize that when I would pull these cards, they would ring quite true, or they would bring something up for me that I was like, oh, I didn't actually consider that. And then after a while, I was hooked. I was like, oh, okay, like there's something to this. This is real. Now, why I kept doing tarot readings instead of, say, those energetic readings or any of the other stuff I was doing at the time, now granted, this was 5-6 years ago, was because I noticed that when I shuffled cards in front of people and I laid out these pictures, all of a sudden their trust came from a different place. They didn't feel like they had to just trust me and my intuition. And, you know, they saw me shuffle. They saw how random it was, and I laid them out, and it turns out it's not so random. There was always a place for the cards. They always made sense. So I liked them from that perspective of people were really able to get into it themselves, and they can look at the picture and be like, ooh, you know, that's what this means, this to me. And so we get to use symbology, and they're just beautiful. They're also just beautiful. So that's why I've stuck with it. And I've found that adding in my yoga practice and my yoga teachings and philosophy, adding in things like the yoga and the tarot together has been such a valuable thing. Doing self-exploration work, doing those growth tactics that we all do or choose not to do. It's always an option as well. It's just a beautiful tool. And there are so many tools out there. These are the ones that I have just chosen to take on and to share with others. So I'm curious, did I miss anything? Do you have any other questions for me? Feel free to ask them in the comments below, and I will do my best to get to them. And there can be future videos if there needs to be. But since we're here, let me go ahead and draw us a card. And we'll just say that this is our intention for this week ahead. And I'll give you a little snippet on how it all works when I'm interpreting a tarot card. All right, who do we have here? The 4 of Cups. So the 4 of Cups, again, we talked about how cups were our values, our relationships, our spirituality, those deeper things. The 4 of Cups, we have this fellow here sitting next to a tree looking up, and he's just kind of wondering. He's just kind of in this curious space of like, all right, like I see what I have, I see what I value. What is coming next? Like, what do I do from here? And he's kind of pondering in this sense of just kind of looking up and just kind of being in that sense of wonder. Now, there are a lot of different interpretations for this card, but I really feel like today, this is you just being curious, looking up and just being like, I've had this belief for a long time. I hold this value. And are these actions in my life really aligning with what I hold dear and what I hold important to me? So it's all about really finding ways to tap into your values, tap into your priorities, and let those really start to shine through in how you're living your life, what your lifestyle looks like, how you treat yourself, how you treat others. Tap into those values. So that's a little snippet on tarot readings. I think this video has gotten to be long enough. Thank you if you have stuck with me this far. And yeah, ask your questions and I will see you soon.